It all started 2 weeks ago. Laura and I have been married for 8 years. We met in college, fell in love fast, and built a life together. She's beautiful, smart, and, until recently, I thought she was the best thing that ever happened to me. Then I found her wedding ring in the glove compartment of her car. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she took it off while driving because it was uncomfortable. Maybe she was cleaning it. Maybe, hell, I don't know, I was grasping at anything to make it make sense. But when I pulled the ring out, something else caught my eye. A second phone. I don't know what made my stomach drop first, the fact that it was there at all, or the fact that when I tried to turn it on, it was locked with her fingerprint. I didn't confront her right away. I wanted to be sure before I accused her of something this big. That night, after she fell asleep, I grabbed her hand and pressed her finger to the phone sensor. It unlocked instantly, and then my world fell apart. Hundreds of messages. Not just with one man. Not even two. There were 3 men. Jake, our personal trainer. I had literally introduced them. Dr. Phillips, our marriage counselor. The irony is sickening. My own father. I nearly threw up. I don't even remember how long I sat there, scrolling through the texts, reading the filth she was sending them. How she laughed at me behind my back. How she called me her pathetic little puppet to the trainer. How she told the therapist she never respected me, but loved how I kept paying him to help our marriage while he was screwing her. And then, the worst part, a hidden folder labeled Fun Nights. I almost didn't click it, but I had to know. Inside were videos, some of her with Jake, some with the counselor, and then one with my father. I can't even describe what I felt watching that. My stomach was in knots. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. But I kept watching because the Real gut punch wasn't just seeing them together. It was what she said. Mid-act, she laughed, flipping her hair back, and said, "Poor Ethan. He really thinks he's the man of this house." My father laughed too. I had to press my hand to my mouth to keep from making a sound. I wanted to scream. I wanted to burn everything down. But I didn't, because suddenly an idea hit me. The next morning, I woke up before Laura. I went downstairs, brewed some coffee, and started making her favorite smoothie, strawberry banana with a little protein powder. I blended it together, poured it into her glass, and added something extra. Just a little something to make sure she knew I wasn't the same idiot she had been laughing at all these years. Then, as the blender whirred, I sat at the kitchen table and printed out every single message, every single screenshot, and stills from the videos. I stacked them neatly in a folder and placed it in front of her usual seat. By the time she came downstairs, stretching like nothing had happened, I was already sipping my coffee. She kissed my cheek, clueless. I smiled. "Morning, love," I said. "Made your smoothie. Enjoy every sip." She grinned, grabbed the glass, and started drinking. And as she took the first gulp, I pushed the folder in front of her. She barely had time to register the papers before she swallowed, licked her lips, and looked down. Then she froze. Her face drained of color. Her breathing hitched. I watched, amused, as she frantically flipped through the pages, her hands shaking, her lips parting in silent horror. She knew. She knew I knew. And that's when I leaned in, lowering my voice to a whisper, and said, "Let's see if they still want you when they find out what's about to happen." Then I stood up, grabbed my keys, and walked out, leaving her sitting there with her half-empty smoothie, shaking in fear. I don't know what's going to happen when I go back home. I don't know how she's going to react, or how deep the lies actually go. But one thing is for sure. Laura's life is about to fall apart, and I'm going to enjoy every second of it. I drove around for hours after dropping that bomb. I needed time to clear my head. I ignored her frantic texts, her 6 missed calls, and the one-word voicemails. "Ethan, please. We need to talk." I can explain. Explain? Explain? What exactly did she think she could say to justify sleeping with my father? After a while, I parked outside a diner, grabbed a coffee, and just sat there, scrolling through the messages on her burner phone one last time. That's when I noticed something I hadn't seen before. Buried in one of her conversations with Dr. Phillips, our marriage counselor, there was a message that made my blood turn cold. "Laura, just deposit it in the usual account. Ethan never checks. He's too trusting." What the F? I logged into our joint bank account. Everything looked normal. bills paid, transactions in line with our usual expenses. But then I checked our savings. $50,000 missing. I checked another account. $20,000 gone. Laura had been moving money into an account I didn't know about. I wasn't even angry at this point. I was impressed. She was robbing me blind while laughing about it in bed with my father. It was time to ruin her. I finally drove home around 10 p.m. The house was dark except for the glow from the kitchen. When I stepped inside, Laura was sitting at the table, exactly where I left her. The smoothie glass was still there, half empty. The papers were scattered across the table. Her hands were shaking. Her mascara was smeared. She looked up at me, eyes red and swollen from crying. "Ethan," she croaked. "Please." I didn't say a word. I walked to the fridge, grabbed a beer, and leaned against the counter, staring at her. "Say something," she whispered. I took a slow sip, then smiled. "How was your smoothie?" She flinched. "Oh my God, what did you do?" I tilted my head. "I didn't do anything, Laura. But you should really think about who you trust before you drink something they hand you." Her breath hitched. Her fingers clutched the table. "Ethan, please. Tell me you're joking." I just stared at her. And then she lost it. She screamed. She threw the smoothie glass at the wall, shattering it into 100 tiny pieces. She collapsed onto the floor, sobbing hysterically. "Please, Ethan. I've get up. I know I've get up. But don't do this. Don't destroy me. I still love you." I laughed. "Love me?" I echoed. "That's rich coming from someone who calls me her pathetic little puppet while getting railed by 3 different men." She shook her head violently. "I was stupid, okay? It didn't mean anything. It was just fun. You were always busy, always working, and I held up a hand. Stop talking." She did. I walked over to the table and slid a piece of paper toward her. She picked it up. Her divorce papers. "Sign them," I said coldly. Her lip quivered. "Ethan, sign them." And that's when she snapped back into her real self. Her tears vanished. Her breathing steadied. She sat up straighter. And then, just like that, the fake remorse was gone. "You're really going to throw everything away over this?" she said, her voice icy cold. I raised an eyebrow. "You mean like you threw away our marriage?" She rolled her eyes, actually rolled her fucking eyes. Asterisk, asterisk. "God, Ethan, you are so asterisk, king dramatic. It was just sex." I didn't react. I didn't flinch. I just smiled. "Cool. Then you won't mind if everyone sees the videos." Boom. Panic. Her eyes widened. "You wouldn't." I pulled out a flash drive and dangled it in front of her. "All your greatest hits. Wonder what Jake, Dr. Phillips, and my father will say when they realize I have proof." She shot to her feet. "Ethan, you can't." I grabbed my phone, opened our group chat with her family, and hovered my finger over the send button. Her smugness vanished. She fell to her knees. "Please," she begged. "I'll do anything. Just don't send them." I leaned down, inches from her face, and whispered, "Then sign the papers and get the K out of my house." Laura signed the papers. "But it's not over yet. Because remember that secret bank account? I found it, and I transferred every last cent back into my account. $70,000. Gone. Now, she has nothing. I also contacted Sarah, my father's wife, and sent her everything. She's filing for divorce and taking half of everything he owns. And tomorrow, I have a meeting with the state licensing board to report Dr. Phillips for misconduct. This isn't just revenge. This is justice. And the best part? I'm just getting started. Let's start with my father. After getting my hands on Laura's secret phone, I sent everything to his wife, Sarah. Every explicit message, every disgusting video, every piece of evidence proving that my father, the man I once looked up to, was sleeping with my wife behind my back. Sarah called me the same night. She was sobbing. "Ethan, how long?" she choked out. "At least 5 years," I said flatly. Silence. Then she whispered, "I always had a feeling, but I never wanted to believe it." She didn't hesitate. The next morning, she packed her bags, hired the meanest divorce lawyer she could find, and started the process of taking my father for everything he's worth. And let me tell you, she is ruthless. She froze their joint accounts before he even knew what hit him. She kicked him out of their house, the one she inherited from her parents. She's going after his pension, his business shares, and even his car. The man is screwed. And the cherry on top? She exposed him publicly. She made a post on Facebook, tagging everyone. To those wondering why I'm divorcing my husband of 25 years, turns out he's been sleeping with my son's wife behind our backs for half a decade. Some men don't deserve to be called fathers, and some women don't deserve to be called wives. It went viral. Extended family, co-workers, old friends from high school, they all saw it. My father is now a pariah. I wasn't done. Remember Dr. Phillips, the marriage counselor who was supposed to be helping us but was actually screwing my wife? Yeah, he's finished. I reported him to the state licensing board, attaching every explicit message and video as proof of misconduct. This guy wasn't just having an affair. He was abusing his position and taking advantage of clients. Guess what? His license is under review, and he's about to lose everything. I also emailed every single one of his clients, thanks to Laura's phone, which had names and contacts, with the evidence. His practice is collapsing. By the time I was done, his wife found out, too. She kicked him out and filed for divorce within days. Dude had the audacity to text me. Dr. Phillips, you're ruining my life, Ethan. Me. That makes two of us. Jake, the personal trainer, learns a lesson. Now let's talk about Jake. Compared to my father and Dr. Phillips, this guy was just a horny idiot. But that doesn't mean I was letting him off easy. First, I found out that he had a fiancée, a beautiful woman named Melissa. So, being the helpful person I am, I sent her everything. Melissa was devastated but grateful. She dumped him immediately, canceled their wedding, and even told his boss at the gym about his little extracurricular activities with married clients. Guess who's now unemployed and single? Jake. And now, for the grand finale, Laura. After signing the divorce papers, she had the nerve to think she could stay in our social circle, that she could keep her job, her reputation, her comfort. Not on my watch. Her boss found out. I emailed HR at her company with proof of her affair with Dr. Phillips, highlighting the ethical breach since he was a consultant for their office. She got fired within 24 hours. Her friends turned on her. Turns out, people don't really like being friends with a woman who cheats on her husband with his own father. Her entire friend group cut her off. She's broke. Since I transferred all the money back from her secret bank account, Laura is flat broke. She's been bouncing from couch to couch, begging people to let her stay. And the best part? She tried calling me, crying about how she made a mistake and how she just wants to talk. I ignored every single call, until one day, she showed up at my apartment. I opened the door to find Laura standing there, looking nothing like the woman I used to know. She was disheveled. Her hair was messy, her makeup smudged from crying. She looked exhausted. "Ethan, please," she whispered. "Can we talk?" I leaned against the doorframe. "Talk about what?" "How you ked my father." She flinched, eyes welling up. "I know I hurt you, but I lost everything. You were my husband, my best friend. I miss you." I laughed. Actually laughed. "You don't miss me, Laura," I said. "You miss the life you had before I burned it to the ground." Her lips quivered. Can't we just try again? Please?" I stared at her for a long moment. Then I smiled. "You remember what you said to Jake?" I asked. She frowned. "What?" I pulled out my phone and played an audio clip from her messages. "Ethan is just a pathetic little puppet. He'll never leave me, no matter what I do." Her face drained of color. I took a step closer, lowering my voice. "Guess you were wrong about that." Then I slammed the door in her face. "Where things stand now, Laura? Broke, unemployed, and alone. My father? Losing everything in his divorce. Dr. Phillips? About to lose his license and career. Jake? Single, jobless, and out of the fitness industry. Me? Finally free. I won't lie, this whole thing destroyed me for a while. But now, I am healing. I am happier. And best of all, they'll never forget what I did to them. And that, my friends, is what real revenge looks like." After I slammed the door in her face, Laura didn't try to reach out for a few days. I thought she had finally accepted her fate. Nope. One night, around 2 a.m., I woke up to banging on my apartment door. I checked my phone, 10 missed calls from Laura. I groaned. got out of bed, and opened the door to find her standing there in the hallway, shaking. She looked awful. Hair a mess, mascara streaked down her face, like she'd been crying for hours. "Ethan, please," she whispered. I crossed my arms. "What do you want, Laura?" She bit her lip, hesitating. Then she dropped to her knees. "I have nothing," she sobbed. "I lost my job. I can't find an apartment. I've been sleeping on different friends' couches, but they're done with me. My own mother won't even let me stay with her. I cut her off. So what? You think I should care?" She flinched. "Ethan, please," she pleaded. "I know I messed up. I know I was awful. But I need your help. Please, just let me stay for a while, just until I get back on my feet." I tilted my head. "You want me to what? Take you in? After everything you did?" Her eyes filled with fresh tears. "I have nowhere else to go." And then she said the most insane thing I've ever heard. "If you ever loved me, you wouldn't let me suffer like this." Laura learns what mercy looks like. I crouched down, so we were at eye level. "If I ever loved you?" I repeated. She nodded quickly, grasping at straws. "I know you did. I know you still do." I smiled. "You're right, Laura. I did love you, and that's why this is going to hurt." She blinked. I stood up, pulled out my phone, and texted Sarah, my dad's soon-to-be ex-wife. Me. "Hey, Laura's at my place, begging for help. You think she'd like a hotel room? I'm feeling generous." Sarah responded instantly. "Sarah, oh, I have the perfect place in mind. Send her my way." I looked back down at Laura. "Good news. Sarah's willing to put you up in a place." Her face lit up. "Really?" "Yep," I said, texting her the address. "Pack your things. I'll drive you." She looked so relieved. Little did she know, Sarah wasn't sending her to some cozy, comfortable hotel. No, she was sending her to the cheapest, nastiest extended stay motel in the city. The kind where the sheets haven't been washed in years, where the walls are so thin you can hear everything, and where the cockroaches have seniority. I dropped her off, watched as she stepped inside, and drove away with the biggest grin on my face. A few days later, I got a voicemail from my dad. "Ethan, son, I know you're angry, and you have every right to be. But I miss you. I made a mistake. A terrible, terrible mistake. I wish I could take it back. I just want to talk. Please call me." I stared at my phone for a long time. Then, I did what any rational son would do after finding out his father screwed his wife behind his back for 5 years. I deleted the voicemail. That man is dead to me. I later found out from Sarah that he's miserable. His business partners dropped him because of the scandal. He can't afford a new place. And this is my favorite part. He tried reaching out to Laura again, and she ghosted him. Imagine throwing away your marriage, your family, and your dignity for a woman who won't even return your calls. Couldn't have happened to a better guy. Not that I really care, but Jake and Dr. Phillips have been trying to crawl out of the holes they dug for themselves. Jake, still unemployed. Apparently, he tried getting hired at another gym, but his reputation followed him. Nobody wants to employ a trainer who sleeps with clients' wives. Dr. Phillips? His practice is ruined. His wife took the house, and last I heard, he's trying to do online counseling to make money. The best part? Laura tried reaching out to them. Guess what? They both ignored her. Looks like her fun nights weren't so fun anymore. Laura? Living in a disgusting motel, unemployed, and completely alone. My father? Lost his marriage, his reputation, and his money. Dr. Phillips? Destroyed career, no clients, no credibility. Jake? Unemployed and dumped. And me? I'm finally free. I've been seeing someone new. Nothing serious yet, but she's the complete opposite of Laura. Kind, honest, and actually respects me. And for the first time in years, I feel like my life belongs to me again. I won.